The crystalline core chamber cracked beneath his feet. Shards of luminescent crystal splintering like fractured stars, suspended in a violent dance. Kai's armor, an alloy of forgotten technologies and alien nanofibers, hummed with a faint, eerie blue glow that wavered with every tremor. A jagged fissure spread across his chest plate, spiderwebbing with each pulse of the unstable energy coursing through the chamber. Outside, the shriek of incoming warships pressed in like the jaws of death closing tight. They sent me here to die, Kai thought, voice sharp in his mind. But I won't just survive. I will turn its power into my shield. His breath came ragged, each inhale burning past cracked lips. The air inside the behemoth was thick, with static, charged particles dancing dangerously close to ignition. He felt the weight of isolation squeeze tighter than the pressure mounting outside. His fingers clenched into fists, knuckles whitening beneath the gauntlets. Around him, shards of the crystalline behemoth's core pulsed rhythmically, alive, unstable, and furious. The alien warships, sleek and merciless, closed the distance with precision. Their targeting arrays glinted through the shattered viewport like a swarm of hungry predators. Yet Kai's eyes were not on them. They were fixed inward, burning with defiance. "Come on," he muttered under his breath, voice low but fierce. "You think this is the end? Not today." He tapped a sequence on his wrist console, and the cracked armor responded with a flicker of augmented energy, sealing fractures with nano-patches that fizzed into place. The glow intensified, a fragile shield forming, feeding off the volatile core's raw power. Kai's mind raced back to the moments that had led him here. Once a soldier of the United Earth Coalition, he had been an outcast, marked by unconventional tactics, by a refusal to follow orders that, in his eyes, courted certain death. The others called him reckless, a liability, but he was something else entirely, a survivor, a tempest in the ranks. He had lost comrades, friends whose faces haunted his dreams. They fell during the siege of Epsilon 7, swallowed whole by the merciless shadow of the glimmering reavers. Kai had been there watching helplessly, the screams still echoed in his soul. That night he vowed never to be powerless again. "You're not alone, Kai," a voice crackled through his comlink. Faint but persistent. It was Myra, his only confidant left in the coalition, a pilot whose loyalty was as fierce as his own. "Extraction is impossible. You have to hold the core. Use its energy. We're buying time." He clenched his jaw. "Hold it against what? They're coming for me, no, for this entire system. I'm a ghost in their war machine. They sent me here to die." His words were bitter, yet beneath that bitterness burned an unyielding spark. Kai's hand moved to the crystalline shard embedded in his gauntlet, a fragment he had pried from the behemoth's heart. It resonated with alien energy, almost sentient. He could feel it whispering in a language older than stars. A promise of power and destruction entwined. "Not just survive," he said aloud, voice steadying. "I'll make this power mine." The chamber shuddered violently, and a burst of raw energy ripped through the air, throwing Kai against the fractured wall. Pain stabbed through his ribs, but he pushed off, steadying himself. The shards around him flared, responding to the strain, casting prismatic light over his battered armor. Each pulse was a threat and a temptation. Outside, the warships unleashed a barrage. Energy beams sliced through the hull, sending cascading sparks and clouds of smoke into the chamber. Kai's visor flickered, overlaying threat vectors and damage assessments. He was on borrowed time. He tapped his comm again. "Myra status." "Still holding," she replied, voice tense. "But the enemy fleet's reinforcements are en route." "You're the linchpin, Kai. If you fall, the core detonates, and this sector becomes a graveyard." He swallowed hard, feeling the crushing weight of responsibility. The crystalline behemoth was no ordinary war machine. It was a relic of a forgotten war, a nexus of unimaginable power. Its core was a living thing, alive, reactive, and dangerous. To tap into, it was to flirt with madness and death. Kai's fingers danced over his gauntlet controls, channeling the shard's energy into a defensive field. The cracked armor hissed under the strain but held. The chamber pulsed in sync with the field, a symbiotic dance of man and machine. He looked down at his hands, scarred and calloused, then back at the glowing shards. Memories surged unbidden. The night he was branded a traitor, the bitter farewell to his unit. The whispered rumors that he'd betrayed them all, but Kai knew the truth. He had chosen survival over blind obedience, and now, survival meant harnessing this alien power. A sudden tremor shook the chamber, an explosion rocked the hull. The shards around Kai fractured once more, sending a shower of sparks. He staggered but caught himself, gritting his teeth against the pain. "Why me?" he whispered into the void, eyes scanning the encroaching warships. "Why send a broken soldier to wield a weapon none can control?" The answer came not in words, but in the burning resolve within him. Kai was the only one reckless enough, desperate enough to wield the behemoth's core. To turn its energy into a shield, not a weapon of destruction. "Not just survive," he repeated, louder this time, voice echoing through the chamber. "I will become its guardian." The alien warships unleashed another volley, their beams carving streaks of light through the chamber's shattered crystal. Kai raised his gauntlet, the embedded shard flaring brightly. A dome of energy blossomed outward, absorbing the blasts with a sound like distant thunder. He felt the power surge through him, a wild heartbeat syncing with his own. The armor glowed fiercely, cracks sealing and reopening like breathless wounds. Every second was a battle to hold the balance between control and chaos. "Hold steady, Kai. You're not alone," Myra's voice reminded him, steady as a beacon. He allowed himself a grim smile, despite the pain. "Then let them come." The chamber trembled again, the core's energy thrumming like a caged storm. Kai's gaze hardened. This was more than survival, it was a reckoning. And he would not fall, not here, not now. The warships darkened the viewport, their weapons primed and ready. But the shattered core chamber was no longer just a tomb. It was Kai's crucible, and from it he would forge a shield that no enemy could break. Kai's breath hitched as the last echo of the alien barrage faded into a heavy silence. The shattered crystal around him shimmered faintly, casting fractured shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. His gauntlet throbbed with the alien shard's pulsing energy, a wild, unpredictable heartbeat that both terrified and fascinated him. Yet beneath the armor's humming hum, something else stirred, a storm of doubt and anger, layered beneath a stubborn hope that refused to die. "They said it was a suicide mission," Kai muttered, voice low, almost bitter. "Sent me in alone, like I was some expendable pawn." His fingers clenched the controls on his gauntlet, the embedded shard resonating with the tension in his muscles. "But they don't understand, they never did." The memories surged unbidden, sharp and relentless. The day his squad was swallowed whole by the behemoth's relentless assault. The crackling static of lost communications, the faces of his comrades, friends like Jara, Malik, and Soren, flashing before him in a cruel montage of failure. They were gone, either dead or captured by the alien hive mind, their fates sealed by his orders to press onward. And now here he was, alone, blamed, and branded a failure by the military command that once called him their best hope. A sudden buzz stirred in his comlink, drawing his attention. Myra's voice crackled through, steady but laced with urgency. "Kai's status report. Command is breathing down my neck. They want answers while you're still alive." Kai's jaw tightened. "Answers? They want someone to blame, Myra. I'm the scapegoat for a mission that was doomed from the start." She replied, a hint of sympathy threading her tone. I know, but you made it this far. That counts for something. He exhaled slowly, the weight of his isolation pressing down harder than the alien pressure hull around him. They don't see that. They only see the failure, the lives lost. They think I abandoned my squad. You didn't, Myra insisted. You fought until the last second. The others, they couldn't keep up. You stayed when no one else could. Kai's eyes flicked to the cracked viewport, where the alien warships still loomed. Their forms like dark predators waiting for the kill. They don't know what it's like to be the last one standing. To hear the screams and not be able to answer. He swallowed hard, the memory a fresh wound. I was supposed to lead them to victory, but all I brought was death. Not true, Myra said firmly. You brought hope. A chance. Kai's throat tightened. Hope was a fragile thing, especially when it lived inside a man who'd been broken by his own command. The shard in his gauntlet pulsed again, its glow intensifying as if responding to his turmoil. I'm not just here to survive, he said aloud, voice steadying despite the storm inside. I'm here to finish what we started, to destroy that thing. Myra's voice softened, almost a whisper now. Behemoth's core, there's more to it than brute force. I intercepted alien signals. They're regenerating faster than we thought. It's not just a machine. It's alive in ways we don't understand. Kai's gaze sharpened. Regenerating, that explains the failed assaults, the losses. Command has been blind to it. Exactly, Myra confirmed. That's why you're the only one they sent. They need a human element, someone reckless enough to get close. He scoffed bitterly. Reckless, that's what they call me. A liability. No, Myra corrected, you're stubborn. Proud, and that's why you might be the only one who can do this. Kai's mind raced. The mission was near suicidal. He'd lost his squad, communication was severed, and the behemoth's core was a volatile beast that could shatter his armor and his mind in seconds. Yet beneath the fear, beneath the frustration, a stubborn hope burned. What if he could harness this alien power? Not just destroy it, but transform it into something humanity could wield. His fingers brushed the shard again, feeling its strange warmth. I dream of that, he admitted quietly, turning their power into humanity's salvation. Not just fighting fire with fire, but forging a new weapon, a shield. Myra's voice was steady, a lifeline in the void. Then don't give up, we're counting on you. Suddenly, the chamber trembled violently. Kai was thrown against the wall, pain lancing through his ribs. The shards around him flared wildly, flashing in a chaotic rhythm that sent shards of light scattering like deadly rain. The core was unstable, responding to some unseen force. Damn it, Kai grunted, pushing himself up. His armor groaned under the strain, nano patches struggling to seal the widening cracks. He staggered, breath ragged, but his eyes were fierce, burning with defiance. Across the comlink, Myra's voice was sharp, urgent. Enemy reinforcements approaching. You're running out of time. Kai's mind snapped into focus. This was no longer just a mission, it was a crucible. He had to decide. Die trying, or find a way to turn the power inside the behemoth's core to his advantage. He activated the shard's energy, feeling it surge through his gauntlet, spreading like wildfire beneath his armor. A dome of translucent energy blossomed around him, shimmering and flickering with unstable brilliance. The alien beams slammed into it, absorbed and deflected with crackling energy. This ends now, Kai whispered, voice low but fierce. For my squad, for everyone who died because of their arrogance. The chamber shook again, more violently this time, fragments of crystal raining down like lethal hail. But Kai stood firm, his armor glowing with the energy of the shard, a beacon of resistance amid the chaos. As the alien warships closed in, their weapons primed, Kai's mind was a tempest of memories and resolve. He thought of his lost squadmates, their faces etched in pain and betrayal. He thought of the superiors who doubted him, who sent him to a death trap without a second thought. And yet beneath it all, he held a stubborn hope, a dream that this alien power could be humanity's salvation, not its doom. "Come on," he said, voice steady despite the pain lancing through his ribs. "Show me what you've got." The chamber pulsed with energy, the shards singing in his gauntlet as if alive. Kai's eyes narrowed, a fierce pride burning in their depths. He was no longer just a broken soldier. He was the last line of defense, the guardian of a power that could change everything. And he would fight to the last breath to prove it. The alien warships opened fire once more, and Kai met their assault head-on. A solitary beacon of hope in a war that had already claimed so much. In the heart of the Crystalline Behemoth, amidst shattered crystal and alien fire, Kai's stubborn hope blazed brighter than ever. Kai's breath hitched as the chamber's trembling intensified, shards of crystal spinning violently through the air like deadly daggers. His gauntlet, embedded with the alien shard, pulsated erratically, sometimes a soothing rhythm, sometimes a violent staccato that sent sharp pain shooting up his arm. The crushing reality settled over him like a lead weight. He was expendable. Discarded by his own command, sent on a mission they expected him not to survive. The bitterness threatened to consume him, but beneath that, a flicker of defiance refused to die. "They don't care if I live or die," Kai muttered, his voice raw with anger and exhaustion as he pressed himself against the jagged wall of the behemoth's core chamber. I was a tool, a liability to be thrown away. His mind raced, wrestling with the duality inside him. Should he accept the death everyone expected, slipping quietly into oblivion, or should he fight, clawing back against the finality imposed on him? The answer burned hotter with each passing second as alien reinforcements streaked closer through the shattered viewport, their sleek warships dark silhouettes against the chaos beyond. "Not today," he growled, fingers tightening around the gauntlet control. Sparks of energy flickered from the crystalline shard embedded in his armor, the alien pulse syncing painfully with his own heartbeat. Kai pushed off the wall, limping forward with grim determination. His path led deeper into the core chamber, where the behemoth's heart throbbed with an eerie, otherworldly light. But the deeper he went, the more hostile the environment became. Jagged crystalline sentinels, luminous and razor-sharp, emerged from the shadows, their multifaceted bodies reflecting distorted images of his battered form. They moved with terrifying precision, slicing through the air with crystalline claws that hummed with lethal energy. The first skirmish was brutal. Kai's pulse quickened as he raised his plasma pistol, firing bursts of charged energy. But the crystalline entities adapted. His shots shattered harmlessly against their translucent armor, which shifted and reformed with a chilling intelligence. One of the creatures lunged, its claws slicing through the air and tearing a ragged gash across Kai's forearm. He grimaced, the pain sharp and immediate. "Damn it," he hissed, pulling a serrated blade from his belt. He slashed wildly, forcing the creature back, but it dissolved into shards that reassembled moments later, more menacing than before. His weapons were ineffective. The behemoth was learning. Frustrated but undeterred, Kai's mind snapped into survival mode. Improvisation was his only option. He tore a piece of his armor plating and jammed it into the nearest crystalline sentinel's core. The creature convulsed violently, energy surging erratically before it shattered into a cascade of glittering fragments. He didn't have time to dwell on the victory. Others advanced, their movements coordinated and ruthless. As he pressed onward, the core itself revealed its secrets. At the chamber's center pulsed a massive crystalline orb, glowing with an intensity that defied comprehension. Its surface shimmered with shifting patterns of energy, pulses like a heartbeat, but alien, almost sentient. Kai's breath caught. This was no mere power source. It was alive. He staggered forward, his hand reaching out involuntarily toward the orb. The shard in his gauntlet flared wildly, resonating with the core's rhythm. A voice whispered in his mind, not words, but a flood of images and sensations. Ancient wars, cosmic storms. The rise and fall of civilizations long forgotten. The behemoth was not just a weapon. It was a living nexus of power and memory. Kai's thoughts flickered to his fallen comrades. Jara's steady gaze, Malik's unwavering courage. Saren's quick wit, all lost to the merciless tide of war. The betrayal he felt wasn't just from his command, but from the cruel hand of fate itself. They had sent him here alone, to die in a place no one else dared enter. Yet here he was, driven by a need far deeper than survival, revenge, redemption, and a desperate hope to rewrite the course of this nightmare. "Why did you send me?" he whispered bitterly, voice echoing faintly against the crystalline walls. "Why me if not to be broken?" The shard pulsed in response, almost comforting. Kai clenched his jaw and forced himself forward, every movement a battle against pain and exhaustion. The alien reinforcements were closing in, their warships now visible in greater numbers outside the viewport. Weapons locked and ready to unleash devastation. Then, without warning, the chamber shuddered violently. The core pulsed with an unbearable intensity, sending shockwaves through the floor. Kai stumbled, crashing against the crystalline surface. His vision blurred, and for a moment he feared he might succumb to the overwhelming power. But then, a spark of clarity. The core wasn't just a weapon to be destroyed. It was a force to be understood, controlled. If he could harness even a fraction of its energy, he could turn the tide. Not just against the alien warships, but against the betrayal that had marked him expendable. He knelt, pressing his gauntlet against the core's surface. The shard flared, sending tendrils of energy racing up his arm, coursing through his armor. Pain flared, sharp and searing, but beneath it a fierce warmth took hold. "Come on," Kai murmured, voice steady despite the chaos. "Show me your secrets." Suddenly, the crystalline entities converged again, more aggressive than before. Kai sprang into action, dodging a lethal swipe and slashing at a sentinel's leg with his blade. The creature shattered, but the victory was fleeting. Others closed in, their movements faster, smarter. His weapons continued to falter, breaking down under the relentless assault. Desperation forced him to adapt. He tore a length of his comm cable, igniting it with a makeshift energy pulse and hurling it into the cluster of enemies. The resulting explosion sent shards flying, buying him precious seconds. Breathing heavily, Kai forced himself forward, each step fueled by rage and determination. His mind flickered with memories of Command's cold dismissal, the whispered rumors branding him a failure. But he was more than that. He was human, stubborn, flawed, but unyielding. "Not a failure," he whispered fiercely, "a fighter." Then, amidst the chaos, Myra's voice came through the crackling comlink, urgent and sharp. "Kai, reinforcements just warped in. You've got maybe minutes before they breach the chamber." Kai's eyes narrowed. Time was running out. He reached the core's very edge, the pulsing orb now filling his vision with blinding light. The shard hummed in his gauntlet, syncing perfectly with the core's rhythm. It was a symbiotic bond, dangerous, unstable, but potent. Kai's mind raced with possibilities. Could he wield this power, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a shield for humanity? Could he defy the fate prescribed by his superiors and carve a new path? The chamber shook again. Crystal shards rained from above, slicing through the air like deadly rain. Kai raised his gauntlet, the shard flaring to life. A dome of energy blossomed outward, crackling with raw power that absorbed the alien fire. "This is my fight," he growled, voice echoing through the chamber. "Not theirs." the alien warships outside unleashed a final, devastating volley. Beams of pure energy struck the shield, reverberating in a symphony of light and sound. Kai's armor glowed fiercely, cracks sealing and reopening like living wounds. Through the chaos, a fierce clarity emerged. Kai was no longer just a broken soldier sent to die. He was the last line of defense, the guardian of a power beyond understanding. And he would fight, against betrayal, against extinction, against the crushing weight of fate, until his last breath. The behemoth's core pulsed wildly, the chamber alive with energy and possibility. Kai's eyes burned with determination, the shards singing in his gauntlet like a heartbeat shared across the cosmos. In that moment, amidst shattered crystal and alien fire, Kai chose defiance over despair. He would not be discarded. He would become the shield humanity desperately needed. And the war was far from over. Kai's breath caught in his throat as a harsh, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber's comm system, cold and unyielding. Lockdown initiated, core chamber SECURED, no exit. The words hammered into his mind like a death sentence. The alien commanders, remotely controlling the behemoth, had sealed the chamber, trapping him inside with the living crystalline core. His eyes darted frantically to the reinforced blast doors, now glowing ominously red. Their locking mechanisms humming with impenetrable energy. "No, this can't be happening," Kai muttered, his voice cracking not from fear but from the crushing weight of betrayal. His fingers clenched tighter around the gauntlet's controls, feeling the shard's pulse spike in tandem with his racing heartbeat. The chamber's walls seemed to close in, the once faint hum of the crystalline core, now a roaring tempest that echoed his turmoil. He sank to one knee, sweat mingling with grime as he pressed his palm against the cold, living crystal embedded in the gauntlet. "Why lock me in? Why trap me with this thing?" His voice trembled, a mixture of dread and rage coursing through his veins. The alien commanders had gambled with his life, treating him as nothing more than a pawn in their cosmic game. Myra's voice crackled through the comlink, urgent but strained. "Kai, the lockdown's holding firm. There's no way in or out. Command's orders, they want you to hold the core at all costs. Even if it means last stand." Her words were a bitter reminder of the sacrifice expected of him. "We're trying to override the system, but it's locked down tighter than anything we've seen." Kai's jaw clenched, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Anger burned fiercely, anger at the alien commanders, at his own superiors, at the cruel fate that had cast him into this tomb. But beneath the fury rose a stubborn ember of hope, fragile yet persistent. "Last stand," he repeated bitterly, voice low. "No rescue coming. Just a slow death in here." His eyes flicked to the crystalline core pulsating nearby, alive and humming with a power that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. But maybe there's another way. His fingers trembled as they hovered over the gauntlet's interface. The core was not just energy. It was a living organism, symbiotically linked to the behemoth itself. Destroying it was deemed impossible, a fool's errand that would trigger catastrophic failure. Yet trapped and desperate, Kai considered the unthinkable. "Shatter it," he whispered to himself, voice barely audible over the core's rhythmic pulse. "If I don't, no one else will." The thought gnawed at him. Shattering the core could destabilize the entire behemoth, unleashing a cataclysm that might obliterate him and everything around. But surrender was not an option. He was not made to die quietly. "I won't be their casualty," Kai said through gritted teeth, rising to his feet despite the pain lacing his limbs. His armor, already battered and cracked, seemed to resonate with the shard's frantic energy. The crystalline core responding to his resolve. As he approached the heart of the chamber, shards of crystal floated like suspended stars, humming with alien life. The core's light brightened, responding to his proximity, casting prismatic hues across the jagged surfaces. His gauntlet's control panel flickered erratically, a reflection of the volatile bond between him and the living crystal. "Come on," he muttered, voice steadying. "Show me what you've got." His hand pressed firmly against the core's shimmering surface. The shard blazed, tendrils of energy weaving between the gauntlet and the crystalline heart. Pain flared, sharp and searing, but beneath it a strange warmth spread, a connection forming, fragile but undeniable. Suddenly the lockdown sirens blared, the chamber's lights flickering violently. The alien forces, sensing his intent, breached the blast doors with a violent hiss. Figures silhouetted against the blinding light stormed in, crystalline blades drawn, their movements swift and merciless. Kai barely had time to react. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding a slashing strike that shattered the floor where he had stood. The attackers advanced, relentless and coordinated. His plasma pistol was useless against their crystalline armor. His blades barely chipped their surfaces. Desperation surged through him, fueling every movement as he dodged and countered. His gauntlet flared with the core's unstable energy, sending outbursts that shattered the crystalline soldiers into glittering shards. But more poured in, a tide of alien fury intent on extinguishing the last flame of resistance. "Not like this," Kai growled, grit filling his voice. "I'm not dying here, not without a fight." In the chaos, the core pulsed violently, energy cascading through the chamber like a living storm. The strain was unbearable, cracks spiderwebbing across the crystalline walls. Kai felt the shard's power surge through his body, the energy fusing with his armor, seeping into his very flesh. Pain exploded, white-hot and consuming, but instead of death, a transformation began. His armor crystallized, shimmering with an unbreakable, translucent sheen. The shards melded seamlessly, forming an impenetrable shell that hummed with alien power. His skin beneath glowed faintly, veins traced with crystalline filaments, a living fusion of man and behemoth. Kai's breath hitched, a mix of shock and awe flooding his senses. The energy had not destroyed him, it had reborn him. "Impossible," he whispered, voice echoing inside the crystalline chamber like a prophecy. I'm." Before he could finish, an alien commander stepped forward. A towering figure cloaked in shifting crystalline armor, eyes gleaming with cold intelligence. "You will be eradicated," the voice resonated, mechanical and unforgiving. "Your defiance is futile." Kai's newly armored fist clenched, energy crackling along his arm. "Try me." The chamber became a battlefield, shards of crystal and bursts of alien energy colliding with Kai's newfound power. He moved with a speed and strength beyond human limits, each strike sending shockwaves through the crystalline warriors. His armor absorbed and redirected the alien blasts, a living shield born of desperation and raw will. The battle was brutal and unrelenting. Kai's mind raced between pain and purpose. Every moment was a dance on the edge of oblivion, but within him burned a fierce hope, a hope that this fusion was not just survival but salvation. "Hold the core," Myra's voice crackled through the comlink, distant but unwavering. "We're not giving up on you." Kai's lips curled into a fierce smile beneath his crystalline helmet. "Neither am I." As the final wave of alien forces surged forward, Kai stood unyielding, a living weapon forged from the heart of the behemoth itself. In that crucible of destruction and transformation, he had made a choice that would not only define his fate but the fate of all who depended on him. He was no longer just a soldier sent to die, he was the shield. And the war was far from over. Kai's breath came in sharp, ragged pulls as the chamber shook violently. The alien lockdown sirens wailing like banshees in his ears. His crystalline armor glistened under the shard's eerie glow. The fusion of alien energy and human, will blazing with an otherworldly light. Inside, the alien shard embedded in his gauntlet pulsed wildly, its alien heartbeat merging with his own. A tempestuous symphony that threatened to consume him. The crushing pressure of this alien force clawed at his mind, whispering promises of unimaginable power while demanding total control in return. He staggered against the jagged wall, sweat burning his eyes. "This thing, it's alive," he muttered, voice barely audible over the cacophony. "And it's trying to take me." His hands trembled, the shard's energy surging unpredictably, sometimes a soothing pulse, other times a violent jolt that seared through his veins. Kai's mind teetered on the brink. Would he succumb to this alien force, letting it erase his humanity? Or would he wrest control, wielding it as a weapon to annihilate the enemy and save what was left of humanity? The chamber's fractured crystal walls shimmered with the core's chaotic energy, casting fractured rainbows that danced like specters around him. Outside, the alien warships pressed closer, their weapons primed for the final assault. The fate of the entire sector, and perhaps humanity itself, balanced on Kai's shoulders. He gritted his teeth, fighting the alien whispers, the seductive lure of surrender. "Not now," he growled, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white beneath the crystalline armor. His breath hitched as the shard flared violently, a surge of power threatening to rip his arm free. Pain exploded in his chest, a white-hot blaze that spread through his veins. Yet beneath the agony, a fierce clarity blossomed. This power, raw, alien, terrifying, could be his salvation if he could only master it. Suddenly, his comlink crackled to life. Myra's voice broke through the chaos, steady and resolute. "Kai, they're breaching the outer defenses. You need to send the signal now. We're ready to mobilize on your mark." Her words were a lifeline, a tether to the human world he feared he might lose. Kai's jaw clenched. "I'm not just going to survive," he whispered, voice fierce with determination. "I'm going to end this." His fingers danced over the gauntlet's controls, drawing on the alien energy coursing through him. The shard responded, tendrils of light weaving along his arm, igniting the crystalline armor with a blinding brilliance. With a guttural roar, Kai surged forward, energy crackling like thunder around him. The alien soldiers poured into the chamber, sleek, merciless, their crystalline blades shimmering with deadly intent. But Kai was no longer the broken soldier they expected. His new form moved with a speed and precision that was almost supernatural, every strike a fusion of human cunning and alien power. "Come on," he shouted, voice echoing against the crystalline walls. "Is that all you've got?" Each clash sent ripples through the chamber, shards exploding into glittering fragments. His gauntlet unleashed blasts of concentrated energy, vaporizing foes with searing heat. But the enemy was relentless, a tidal wave of crystalline warriors intent on crushing the last spark of resistance. Kai's mind flashed with memories, Jara's calm smile, Malik's fierce loyalty, Soren's quick wit, all lost to this merciless war. The pain of their absence was a knife twisting in his heart, fueling his fury. "For them," he growled, "for all we've lost." His attacks grew more ferocious, the alien power bending to his will. The shard's chaotic energy coalescing into a deadly force. Just as exhaustion began to gnaw at his limbs, Kai's gauntlet emitted a piercing signal, an encrypted transmission that pulsed through the ether. "Signal sent," he murmured, barely audible, sweat dripping from his brow. "Now it's your turn." Myra's voice crackled back almost immediately, filled with hope and urgency. "We're moving in, Kai. Hold tight." The chamber trembled violently as the alien warships outside reacted to the signal. Beams of human energy lanced through the void, striking the enemy fleet with surgical precision. The tide of the battle shifted. The alien invaders faltered, their formations breaking under the unexpected assault. Kai's vision blurred momentarily, pain and fatigue threatening to overwhelm him. He collapsed against the crystalline wall, breath shallow. Yet beneath the exhaustion, a strange calm settled. He was forever changed, no longer just a man, but a living embodiment of the behemoth's power. The alien energy still coursed within him, a constant struggle between control and chaos. But he had chosen to wield it, to become a shield rather than a weapon of destruction. Myra's voice softened, almost reverent through the comlink. "You did it, Kai. You turned the tide." Kai managed a weary smile, his eyes reflecting the fractured light of the core. "We did it," he corrected gently. "Together." As the alien warships retreated, the chamber grew still. Kai sank to his knees, fingers tracing the smooth surface of the crystalline core. The pain of loss weighed heavily on him, the friends who never returned, the cost of survival etched deep into his soul. Yet amid the ruin, a fragile hope took root. He whispered to the core, "Maybe this isn't the end. Maybe human and alien technology can merge, not as enemies, but as allies." A soft pulse responded, a rhythmic beat that resonated with his own. Kai closed his eyes, envisioning a future forged from the ashes of destruction, a future where resilience and ingenuity would lead humanity beyond the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners in the vast cosmic dance. Rising slowly, Kai looked out through the shattered viewport. The war was not over, but the spark of hope burned brighter than ever. He was no longer the broken soldier sent to die. He was a symbol, a testament to humanity's unbreakable spirit. Forged in the heart of chaos, and as the first rays of a distant sun pierced the darkness, Kai vowed silently. No matter the cost, he would fight for that future. For humanity, for redemption, for the unyielding light that even the deepest shadows could never extinguish.